Well, hiya there, intentional streaming fans. Welcome to another weekly podcast from my co-host Jarvis.
Hey, everybody. It's good to be back.
And myself. We had some scheduling issues last week, so we took a week off.
Yeah, Mama Jarvis was in town. She came to take us out for supper, and, hey, I couldn't pass that up.
No, absolutely not. Can't say no to Mom.
Nope, and it just didn't work out where we could fit it into another day because I was out of town traveling with the wife. So
I can't say no to the wife either, can you?
Nope. But both of those can say no to me anytime
they just snap their fingers and say no.
Yeah, hey, what did we just uncover a one-way, street here?
I think every guy knows that, don't they?
Yeah, that's very true.
So welcome to another intentional streaming podcast. You can always check us out at INT Stream Pod on Twitter, or check us an email at intentionalstreaming@gmail.com.
Bless you.
Excuse me.
You must be allergic to awesomeness because I feel we're in the midst of an awesome show tonight.
I'm going to concur with that. Absolutely going to concur with that. I think this is going to be another barn burner of a show. Tonight we're going to go over the AFC North and the NFC North. And we're going to go over the depth charts and some of our fantasy thoughts of moves that these teams have made in the offseason. And, maybe, just some looking forward to the 2019 season.
Yeah, and it's just some potential fantasy implications surrounding each team. So we'll do a little bit of a dive into each one of those teams and kind of give you our thoughts on what we're thinking, what we're feeling.
Because we got 2 more weeks to, next week we're going to be doing the South of both divisions, and then next week, or both conferences, and then the week after that, then we'll finish up with the West, and that'll give us 1 week. That'll give us 1 week to do our our draft stuff.
Yeah.
Which I know everybody's excited about that.
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy.
So, why don't you start us off tonight, Jarvis, with the question of the week?
Yeah, question of the week. Flip, going into the 2019 season, who of these 3 second-year quarterbacks would you want in a dynasty league going forward? Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, or Sam Darnold?
Oh, boy. That's tough. That is an awesome question.
Yes.
Lamar Jackson scores a lot of points with his legs, but he's not going to score very many points with his arm. Darnold, he came on late last year and was looking a little better, and now has Le'Veon Bell. I still don't like him for a dynasty guy. Josh Allen, he's just so super raw, and Buffalo's so brutal. If I had one of these 3 guys to be my quarterback, we talking for, let's say, for the next 5-10 years?
Yeah, 4 or 5 years. Dynasty League. This is going to be your guy.
I'm going to be finishing in last place either way. So, I'm going to take a shot. I'm going to go with Josh Allen.
Really?
Yeah. I like his upside. Lamar Jackson just does not impress me as a passer.
No, not at all.
And Darnold's got a lot of weapons around them, and New York's going to spend a lot of money on weapons. With Bell, Robbie Anderson, but you get past that, you run into what Quincy Enunwa and a few others. And I know there's not a lot of talent around Josh Allen. I just kind of like him better than the others. Well, what are your thoughts, Jarvis?
Well, so initially I thought, okay, yeah, well, Josh Allen would probably be my guy too. I was surprised that you said that.
I'm surprised I said it too.
Yeah, because when we look at Josh Allen's stats from last year, I mean, okay, he threw 2,074 yards. He had 10 touchdowns and 12 interceptions. Now, where this guy made his hay was obviously on the ground. He ran for 631 yards and 8 touchdowns. He almost rushed for more touchdowns than he threw. So 2,000 yards, 10 touchdowns, 12 picks. Then you look at Lamar Jackson here. Now, keep in mind, he didn't start until week 7. But he had 1,200 yards passing and 6 touchdowns. He had 697 yards on the ground, 5 touchdowns. So, again, another guy that makes his hay on the ground. Sam Darnold. Now, he had 2,800 yards, 17 touchdowns. He rushed for a whopping 138 yards with 1 touchdown.
Yeah, he's not a runner.
No, he's not a runner. He's more of a passer. And then I like the moves that they made in New York, bringing in Lev Bell. Jamison Crowder coming over, Robbie Anderson there, the deep threat. If it were me and I had to pick, I do like the upside of both Allen and Jackson simply because of their ability to score points on the ground. I would probably have to go with Sam Darnold because here's my concern about Josh Allen is that his rushing yards primarily came from pass breakdowns. Like he was scrambling out of the pocket, looking for someone to pass to, and when he couldn't find anything, like within the first couple steps, he panics and he runs. Now he did a really good job this year of running the ball and avoiding the big hit, but you don't want your franchise quarterback doing that a lot.
Well, and I'm trying to remember what his injury was when he did get hurt.
I think it was his elbow, if I'm not mistaken. It might have been his elbow.
And I just don't remember.
But Lamar Jackson, now they design a lot of run plays for him. Mm-hmm. They're not going out and making big pushes to get your Antonio Browns or Odell Beckhams or anything like that because they're not going to need him. And I've said this before in what I consider like a junior high offense. So long-term outlook, I would go Sam Darnold. I think all three have good upside, and it's going to be kind of roster dependent. If you've got a good solid quarterback that you can rely on as your number one quarterback, because obviously these three guys you're not going to want as your quarterback one.
No. Oh, geez.
They're going to be your quarterback 2, maybe quarterback 3, depending on your league and how your roster is set up and how you can play them. But if you have another like boom or bust type guy as your quarterback 1,
oof, boy,
I would want Sam Darnold. I think the consistency is going to be there with Sam Darnold, whereas you can have a 40-point game from Allen or Jackson followed by a 10-point game.
Now, I guess here would be my question is, if one of these three quarterbacks you were going to keep, as let's say you do have a dynasty league where you keep 2 quarterbacks, and I play in one of those types of leagues in the other league, and I would think, okay, so here's my thought on this. Do you see any of these 3 quarterbacks earning a second contract in the NFL right now?
Yes.
You do. Do you see all 3? Do you just see 1 or 2? What are your thoughts there?
I see 2. I see 2 of them.
Okay.
And I think it's going to be Darnold and Allen.
So you don't think Lamar Jackson has a future in the NFL?
I think he does, but if I had to wager a guess, I would say that the other 2 have more potential to get extended than him. I think that he could be a guy that I don't know, he's too one-dimensional for my liking, I guess.
Mm-hmm. And I completely agree there. We'll see what kind of leaps he makes in the future. I didn't like any of these guys. And, with Rosen coming out, I didn't like any of them.
Well, and yeah, I should mention that, Josh Rosen could have been in that conversation, but
yeah, I mean,
I chose to leave him out just because all speculation is pointing towards Arizona going with Kyler Murray, number 1 pick.
Looking at these 3 guys' stats here, if you look at their completion percentage, here's the scary thing about these 3 guys. Here's Josh Allen at 52.8%. You got Lamar Jackson sitting at at 58.2% and Darnold at 57.7%. That's bad.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking, that definitely is scary for Josh Allen. I mean, how do you raise your completion rate 10%?
So the thing with that is when you break it down, I mean, all three of them are not where you want them to be.
No.
Now, Josh Allen you can attribute to, okay, well, he's got a cannon for an arm. He takes a lot of deep shots, and deep shots tend to be less inaccurate or more inaccurate than your short passing routes. I can see that. Lamar Jackson, we all know he can't throw accurately 5 or 50 yards. So I'm not surprised at that one bit. Sam Darnold, though, he was touted as an accurate passer. Whether or not that percentage, that completion percentage is affected by any drops, I don't know if that's factored into it or not. But he didn't have a really good wide receiver core around him. He had Robbie Anderson, and that's kind of it.
None of those guys really had any decent wide receivers or even tight ends, around them to really bail them out.
Right, and you see guys like DeAndre Hopkins and Odell Beckham's and like your Julio Jones that have these like massive catch radiuses, like where the ball doesn't have to be thrown to them super accurately. They can go out 6 feet one way or 6 feet the other way, up, down, left, or right, and still make a play on the ball. And that helps their quarterback out quite a bit. You didn't see any one of those caliber players on either one of those teams. So,
not even close. Not even close. I mean, probably the best wide receiver on those three teams was probably Robbie Anderson. I'm gonna say.
Yes.
So, we'll see. I would not count on any of those guys being even in a redraft as my quarterback too. I really wouldn't.
No.
Really wouldn't. Not even Darnold in a redraft league. Darnold would probably be the top one.
I agree.
In a redraft that I would go for.
Yep.
So you wanna hit the news and notes?
Yeah. So some notes around the league. Jared Cook signs with the Saints. That's a good landing spot for him, I feel. In a Saints offense that's pretty high power. You got a guy who's shown that he can be a fantasy asset at the tight end position. And we're looking at it from a fantasy perspective. Who cares about real life football, right? Mm-hmm. But he's shown he can be a fantasy asset at the tight end position. Sorry. And he's going to a team with a Hall of Fame, caliber quarterback. So I mean,
Does it hurt him that they have not used their tight end position in a long time? And does it also hurt him that there's a lot of mouths to feed down there?
So with him being the number one target guy in a really poor Oakland Raiders offense, or going to a high-powered offense in New Orleans and being like the third target guy, is there much of a difference, do you think?
The only thing that really worries me is, there was speculation for years about the whole Josh Hill. Mm-hmm. This is Josh Hill. It's his time. Ben Watson had a couple of good years down there. But I don't know. I think he's
top 10 potential.
Does it matter? I mean,
the thing about tight end is you have your top 4.
Well, you have so you have what? Kelsey,
Ertz, Kittle, maybe Ingram.
If he can't stay healthy,
yes.
I'm missing one.
Ebron.
He doesn't catch the ball enough to really get up there. I can't think of who I'm. Maybe I am thinking of Cook for the other one. But then you have that big logjam of those other 10 guys. I still say that Cook falls into that log jam of those other 10 guys.
Yeah, me too. It's a good signing. It's good for him. Are we saying go out and target him and be like, have all these wild expectations of a top, 4 or 5 tight end? No. I don't.
No, I agree.
No. Doug Baldwin, Flip, Said he's gonna still need a couple more surgeries. Not good. If you're a Doug Baldwin owner from last year, does this surprise you?
No, I was one of those Doug. I believe I got fleeced on a trade of Doug Baldwin, if I remember right.
Yes, you did.
And that really hurt my redraft by doing that. And he was not healthy all year, and it really cost Doug Baldwin owners.
So for all you people out there that aren't aware, I was the one that traded him away to Flip.
Thus the giggle.
Yeah, but the thing is like I don't know who the joke's really on because I drafted him pretty high, where I could have got somebody else. But either way, that's what that's all about. Hey, Gronk.
See ya. Adios.
Bye, man. What a great career that guy had.
Okay. Now, this is where I'm gonna put the brakes on this. Great? No. Tony Gonzalez had a great career. Antonio Gates had a great career. Jason Witten had a great career. Gronk was like 800 catches behind Tony Gonzalez. 800. That's more catches than Gronk even had in his career behind Gonzo. Same thing with I think Witten was right at close to maybe 1,100. Maybe I'm thinking of Gates. But anyway, so Witten and Gates were like 950 to like 1,100 receptions. And then, of course, Tony Gonzalez was like 1,300. You know, he did well in that system for New England. You know, he caught a lot of touchdown passes. But, 9 years he racked up 550, receptions. When I see some people talk that, he was the GOAT, I just cringe and say, no. He had 521 receptions in his career in 9 years. I'm sorry, that's not impressive when you look at like Gonzalez or Gates or Witten or that's just me. That's he's got a ton of touchdowns. 79 touchdowns. That's impressive. And he had some really good years, but he only had 3 years over 1,000 yards.
Wow.
So, 4 years over 1,000 yards. In his 9 years. So there's my rant on that Gronk is. He was good. I just won't use the word great.
Wow. So I let you finish.
Yeah, sorry for the long rant there.
No. I'm shocked that in the whole time that you were going off about it, I was surprisingly like going through my phone here trying to vet some of these stats, and I'm just like blown away that you would say that he was good but not great. I mean, he was dominant. Now,
at times.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm gonna have to bookmark this because I want to go back and I want to compare stats and everything like that because I do say it was a great career. I mean, not only the fact is he got a couple Super Bowl rings, but I mean his touchdowns, his sheer dominance of the position. There hasn't been anybody at that position that has played tight end that just was supremely outmatched everybody that he went up against.
Oh, I would say Tony Gonzalez. Absolutely, Gonzalez did. Gonzalez was not as physically big as Gronk, but he was a better athlete.
Yeah, but he had longevity too.
He did, but
longevity doesn't necessarily mean that. Okay, so the weight factor of some of those stats have to come into the fact that some of these guys played longer. Jason Witten, there's no chance you're going to get me to admit that he's a better tight end than Gronk. Tony Gonzalez, Yeah, he's up there, but I still think Gronk's the best tight end that's ever played.
Well, I mean, look at the
Now, as far as talent-wise. Now, when you come to
Gonzalez.
like overall statistics, yeah, you can compare them, but just sheer dominance at the position, I don't think there's anybody that can hold a candle to
But
Gronk.
I think you also have to look at longevity. With Gronk, yeah, he got beat up a lot, and he finally said, "No, I'm tired of getting beaten up."
Better
It's all good.
running back, Frank Gore or Barry Sanders?
Oh well, Frank Gore, of course, he played longer.
You knew where I was going with that. Okay, we got to move on.
Yeah, no, we're killing our time.
So another guy that's announced his retirement is Jordy Nelson.
He was retired before last year, I think. No, he just didn't produce last year.
Yeah. But he don't rule it out because he has come out and said that he would entertain a Packers reunion. Keep an eye on that. Isaiah Crowell signs a 1-year deal with the Raiders. Wow.
This should actually be a bigger deal than
That's
what.
noteworthy. I completely agree with you. Now, Marshawn Lynch, I don't know if you're following this or not. Marshawn Lynch, man, he's doing the Raiders dirty. Because he's saying, okay, I'm going to decide what I'm going to do after the draft.
Well, he doesn't want them. He doesn't want to come in and sign a deal and then have them draft. I mean,
They're good. They were going to do it anyway, but I mean, but if he's there, they're not going to spend a high draft pick.
Why wouldn't they? I mean, Marshawn Lynch is what, 32, 33, and they have what, 4 picks within the first top 30, 35, 36 picks.
Yeah.
So they could easily, they could easily go running back. Well, Lynch doesn't want to come in and play second fiddle to anybody.
No.
Like that. So I think with the Crowell signing that Lynch is gonna, he's
gone.
I think he's gonna hang it up.
If he doesn't, would you take Crow or Lynch?
If he doesn't,
Yeah.
ooh, Lynch looked good at
He
at
looked
times.
good at times. Like what is that? This one of their first preseason games. He busted off that 62-yard run. They got called back as a whole, but he looked fast.
Mm-hmm.
But if it were me, I'm going Crowell. I think the signing means something. I think he slides right into that Doug Martin role. I think it's going to be him and Jalen Richard, unless they go out and they make a big signing during that.
Yeah, definitely. The dynasty guys that have Crowell, most of them probably bailed on him after the poor year, and even though he had 2 huge games, he had over a 200-yard game.
Yeah, against my Broncos, I do remember that.
Oops.
Yeah, another significant running back move. Jordan Howard is going to the Eagles.
Traded.
Woo! What does that mean?
That's that's pretty huge. No Jay Ajayi. I think Ajayi's still on the market.
Yep.
So
he visited the Colts, left there with no deal. So that's good for all you Marlon Mack owners out there.
So I like Howard going there. He's still going to be just probably a 2-down pounder. We'll see if Darren Sproles comes back or what they use for their whether it's going to be Corey Clement, but it really hurts like Smallwood and
Corey Clement. Well, Clement's more of a pass catcher, but I was kind of surprised at this signing because Eagles were very low on my list of potential candidates for Jordan Howard, just because simply traditionally they've always had a 3-down back as their lead back, like someone who can catch the ball out of the backfield. And Howard has proven that he really can't do it. Or Chicago was just like, you know what, we're not going to try.
I don't think they ever really tried.
I don't think so either.
Maybe I just haven't watched enough of Jordan Howard.
But what if he goes to Philly and proves that he can catch the ball in the backfield and they trusted him enough to start targeting him? Jordan Howard could be a big,
huge
fantasy asset.
Now the question is he going to get overdrafted, or is people going to worry that he might be in kind of a crowded backfield?
Oh, if it were me, he would be underdrafted. Until he proves me wrong, if it were me going into the draft, I would admit I would probably underdraft him.
See, I'm a Jordan Howard fan.
I am too.
I think he can catch the ball more than what he did in Chicago.
I think if he went to somewhere else, I think his draft stock would have been a little bit higher in my mind, but we'll see. C.J. Anderson. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, if Darren Sproles remains retired, that bumps him up.
Yeah, I think that anybody that has that's putting any stock into like Josh Adams, they can probably let that ship sail. C.J. Anderson signs a 1-year deal with the Lions.
It's just a terrible spot for him to go. I like C.J. Anderson, and I liked him. 2-3 years ago when he ran for 1,000 yards in Denver, and then of course he played in Carolina where they hit the snooze button on him and he didn't play, and then he goes to the Rams and shows why he ran for 1,000 yards in Denver.
Yeah, he had a good outing there, didn't he?
Yeah, and now you look at with Detroit. I mean, so they want to limit Kerryon Johnson's carries, but
we don't know how that'll play out.
I'd be a little worried if I was Kerryon Johnson owners right now.
I wouldn't.
You don't think so? You don't think he's going to have much of an impact?
Nope, not at all.
Okay. We shall see.
Goal line vulture, maybe, yeah, but I don't know. I'm a big Kerryon Johnson fan.
I was too until they brought in. If they would have brought in, somebody else, I wouldn't have been concerned. But I like C.J. Anderson. Duke
Johnson, he's asking to be shipped out of Cleveland.
Ooh, that's no surprise there. When you when you add 2 running backs in the past 2 years. And you just don't think you have a role.
He's an interesting guy. I think a lot of teams are going to have him on the radar just because he's a dual threat type guy. So we'll see where he lands. I think he could be a good addition to some running back needy teams out there.
Great third down back when utilized. He just wasn't utilized last year.
A couple of very mediocre signings. Raiders signed wide receiver Ryan Grant. Raiders continue to make moves during the offseason.
That's not the former Packer running back Ryan Grant.
No.
Okay.
No. Then Alfred Blue signs a 1-year deal with the Jaguars.
Alfred Blue had his chances in Houston, and
he blew it.
Oh.
I saw where you're going.
Dun, dun.
All right, well, that does it for this week's news and notes. Let's move on to Flip. Let's go to the AFC North. Tell us what's going on in Baltimore.
Well, the Baltimore Ravens, after finishing a stellar 10-6 season last year and making the playoffs, they jettisoned Joe Flacco to his new team.
Jettison Joe, I like that nickname.
Yes, jettisoned Joe to the Donkeys for a 4th rounder.
Hey,
Ooh.
Broncos.
Oh, okay, whichever. Oh, I thought, okay, never mind. I was going to tease you a little more, but I won't. So, Lamar Jackson's, it's his team. He's going to run the show. Second in rushing last year at 695, behind Gus Edwards at 718 yards. Led team with rushing touchdowns, had 5 rushing touchdowns last year. They went out and snared Mark Ingram, 3-year, $15 million. That's pretty. It's a decent amount of change for a 30-year-old running back.
Yeah, we see them make moves on the ground, signing, bringing in Mark Ingram. That just kind of goes to show that, they're pretty solidified in the fact that this is going to be a run-first offense. It's going to go through Mark Ingram, who I think still has a lot of tread left on his tires. And you have a run-first, which it's kind of crazy to say, a run-first quarterback, leading the way. This is going to be a ground-and-pound type team, and I think Mark Ingram comes in and fits the bill really, really well. As far as their, the pass targets go, I have a lot of optimism for Mark Andrews and the tight and Hayden Hurst. Again, Lamar Jackson hasn't shown that he's an extremely accurate passer, so look for those short passes. And those type of targets are going to go to these tight ends.
I agree. Just because, boy, you look at their wide receivers. And Willie Snead, one-trick pony there.
The deepest of, like, dynasty, fantasy owners and fans. I'm sure even 80% of the Baltimore Ravens diehard fans can only name like two of these guys. Willie Snead and Chris Moore. Then they got Jaleel Scott, Jordan Lasley, and Quincy Adebiojo. Yeah. Attaboy, Yejo.
There's been a couple other guys with the same last name, and I can never get
I can't
get them right.
Attaboyjo.
Now,
something like that.
I have seriously never heard of
Jordan Lasley.
Wasn't
he a white guy from? Nope. Never mind.
No.
For some reason, I was thinking he was from like Iowa or Iowa State. Some smaller kid. But
no, UCLA.
Yep, I couldn't have been farther off.
No,
I'm glad you looked that up.
Yeah, he had 1,000 yards. Well, over almost 1,264 in 2017. He was a 5th-round pick. Boy, this screams draft a wide receiver.
Yeah, they're gonna have to. Like, I know there's talks of them going out and getting, spending some draft capital on another running back, believe it or not. I know that's been circulating around the Baltimore area, but if you have, as the owners of the, as an owner of the Ravens, as the head coach of the Ravens, as the coaching staff of the Ravens, you have to know what you have. They have to know what Lamar Jackson's capabilities are. I don't see them going out and trying to make a huge splash and moving way up to get a wide receiver, overpay for him, and someone that's in a position that may not be utilized to their full potential.
I wouldn't say move up, but I wouldn't
pay
be
up.
surprised.
Pay up. Pay up.
Oh, you mean okay?
I misspoke.
Okay,
yeah, my bad. Pay up.
Yeah, and I
like
know they
overpay for spend like a first or second rounder on a wide receiver that.
And see, I do. I think they use their first rounder probably on a wide receiver.
It would be smart of them to do, to try to bring that element out of Lamar Jackson and give him like a very valuable asset that he could feel confident in targeting. But whether they do that or not, I'm not sure. Yeah. I would hate to see someone like my favorite wide receiver this class, DK Metcalf, go to somewhere like that. Where
I think he'll be off the board before he gets. And I would not like to see him in the Steelers division, either. No. They just, that wide receiver core is just not good.
It's one of the worst.
Yeah, and I'm not going to say that you might be a bit of a fan of Mark Andrews a bit. I think it's going to be more Hayden Hurst there, but what value does he have? I mean, I think he's going to be one of those low end, 8 to 15, tight ends.
Oh, for sure. I don't expect the top 5 out of him.
Yeah,
we all know what the Achilles heel is for the Baltimore Ravens, and we'll see if they go in and do something this year to help bolster that receiving crew out. But this is a run-first offense, and I think that anybody that's got Lamar Jackson and Mark Ingram can expect the offense to go through those two guys.
Agreed. Completely.
And moving on to Cincinnati. Hey, AJ Green, Flip, will he bounce back from an injury last year? It's tough to say. He's getting up there in age, and that's
and he's vying for a new contract. This is his contract year too, so I expect him to probably sign an extension. So,
but can you say that the torch has been passed to Tyler Boyd?
Oh boy, I would say Boyd put up the numbers because Green wasn't on the field. I still think that AJ Green is a top 10 fantasy wide receiver in the NFL. What do you think? I know you're a Tyler Boyd fan, aren't you?
I am a Tyler Boyd fan. But I would agree with you. I don't think that he's going to overtake A.J. Green there this year. I don't think the torch has been passed per se. I think it's A.J. Green's team, But, man, Tyler Boyd has been impressive. He has been impressive, and this is coming from a guy that, honestly, I didn't have any expectations on.
No,
when he first came out.
He really surprised.
Well, they started him off in the slot when he first came out, because they had Mohamed Sanu, I think, at the time on the outside with A.J. Green, and then they moved Boyd in there, and he really didn't do much of anything.
Well, there's been all that hype over John Ross. He was a first round pick.
He's an absolute bust. I said it from the time that he broke the 40 record. I said he's going to be a bust because that's all he is, and he has shown me nothing to disprove that.
Well, I don't think he hasn't been on the field a whole lot.
Exactly.
I believe he missed almost his. Yeah, he only played in 3 games his rookie year, and then played in 13 games last year, and he only had. John Ross only had 21 receptions last year.
He's just, in my opinion, he's not even worth a mention.
Yeah, he's a pretty big one-trick pony in my book there.
But, hey, moving on to the ground game there in Cincinnati, though, Joe Mixon, he had a breakout season, led the AFC in rushing. What do you think, man? Can you follow it up? Do you think he'll get more than 43 receptions this year?
Well, I know we're gonna. Oh, geez, we're gonna kill time tonight. But when Joe Mixon came out as a rookie in our dynasty league, and I moved up multiple times in the first round to go after Leonard Fournette, and I ended up getting blocked at the very end.
I know.
And I settled for Joe Mixon, and you know what? I was okay with that. I thought Fournette was going to be better, but Mixon so far. I like Mixon. I really do. I would like to see Mixon catch the ball more than what he does. He only had 43 receptions last year. He did, led the league led the AFC in rushing, which didn't say much because a lot of the other guys were hurt. And the only reason why he did not make the Pro Bowl because of punching the woman 4 years before that. Still gonna haunt him. What's gonna happen with Gio Bernard? Is he even worth drafting?
No.
Nope. I agree.
Nope. Short and sweet.
Nope. So, what about the Azuma kid, the tight end?
The tight end situation, yeah. The tight end to own there is C.J. Uzomah.
Yeah, definitely not Eifert. You're not gonna drop a third round pick.
No,
in a redraft.
I think that if you can get him very, very, very late, once you've already had your team solidified and you're going after tight end 2, yeah, that's the time to get Tyler Eifert. Now he's a tight end 1 potential. But he hasn't proven that he can be on the field for more than 4 or 5 games a year.
I would draft Azuma before I would draft.
Yes. He will be the tight end to own.
Yeah. And, with Andy Dalton, I think this really could be a make or break year for Dalton. Whether he is truly viewed as continuing being their franchise quarterback. How about the team that everybody's buzzing about, the Cleveland Browns?
Wow. Cleveland rocks, right?
Right.
Yeah. Wowzers. Did they make some splashes? Biggest one? Odell Beckham.
Number 2?
Kareem Hunt.
Huge moves. Crazy moves. Yeah. Who would have thought that the Giants were actually that disgruntled and Odell Beckham was that disgruntled with the Giants? That they would actually send him out and he would sign a monster contract with Cleveland.
Do you think it was them being disgruntled, or is it the fact that they are in full-blown rebuild mode? We got an opportunity to take a Hall of Fame wide receiver, a guy who's probably not going to get a lot of usage this year. You know, he's not going to do much for our team, that we couldn't go out and get a second-tier wide receiver to come in and do almost as much. And don't take that the wrong way, but it's all based off the quarterback play. The offensive line is in shambles. It's terrible. This is a full-blown rebuild mode. So trading away their biggest asset at the height of his career to get what they got out of him, I think it's all just saying, hey, that's it. We give up. White flag. We're rebuilding. We're going forward. Let's get what we can get out of our stud player and wish him the best.
I agree. And I think he is going to, oh boy, I think he's going to blow up in Cleveland. I really do. You know, Baker Mayfield looked good last year, but anytime you add a number one, you know, a top tier wide receiver, you know, it's only going to make him be better. You know, look at all those quarterbacks that, you know, threw to Hopkins before they got Watson. How many of those guys did he make look better?
Oh, my God.
TJ Yates and
Matt Schaub.
Matt Schaub.
Yeah.
He made those guys look decent, and they were terrible. So, yeah, and Hunt's going to take that 8-game suspension, but where do you draft Hunt? You know, let's say in a redraft, because in most dynasties he's surely going to be owned, or in our dynasty, the guy actually did drop Hunt.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
in dynasty, oh man, it's all dependent on your roster. You know, if you've got some depth and you can afford waiting the 8-game suspension, why not take a chance on him? Redraft, man, he's going to be your wide receiver, your running back 4. You know, just sit and wait out the suspension. Even then,
there's no guarantee that
he
because Nick Chubb showed, you know, promise last year. He looked good. And, you know, to wait for 8 weeks, you know, and, you know, just hope that he comes in and produces. You know, I don't know. You know, Chubb rushed for almost 1,000 yards last year. You know, it was kind of a head scratcher. It'll be interesting to see.
And he would have gotten it, obviously, if he would have played in the other 2 games.
Mm-hmm. So, you know, who starts opposite of OBJ?
Oh, it's well, probably Callaway, right?
I would think so. Right now, our lads has Rashard Higgins there, and you know Higgins, he had a decent year last year, but you know Callaway had almost 600 yards, and you know they were really close in yards, you know. But you know the thing with Callaway is, I thought he was suspended last year.
Oh, no,
Oh, was that 2 years ago?
Yeah.
Oh, jeez. Whew, time flies, huh?
It sure does.
So
this could be one of those things. I mean, Odell Beckham goes into what's now going to be a high-powered offense, who looks like on paper a high-powered offense, and you could raise the question, okay, is there too many mouths to feed in that offense? A guy like Odell Beckham, I do not think for 1 second he's going to suffer that wrath.
No,
I think the people that you could be worried about, gosh, I don't even know, like Landry maybe.
Do you worry some with if you were a Njoku owner that he's just kind of too big of a beast to?
I think so too. I think that they're just loaded at you know the pass catchers in that offense. I think they're just loaded, and again we mentioned it earlier. Baker Mayfield, he really showed some great strides throughout the year, and he didn't really perform like a rookie, and so big things are expected of this crew next year.
Well, we went over those other three quarterbacks, and their poor, completion rate. Then you look at Baker Mayfield, 63.8% last year. And that's without, Landry and Njoku helped out a ton last year. But yeah, I don't see Landry having, the year that he had last year.
I still think he's going to be up there in the same category as what he had last year. I wouldn't expect a bump from him at all.
81 receptions. That's quite a bit to repeat with that many mouths. But we will. I think I would downgrade to him to under 65, 70 receptions. But it depends. Are they going to be a pass first team? Are they going to try to run the rock, especially late in the year? Are they going to have leads this year as opposed to last year where they're going to run the ball?
That's a good point.
So they're going to, unfortunately, they're going to be a fun team to watch.
And why is that? Why you say unfortunately? Is it because they're in the same division as your Pittsburgh Steelers?
Yeah. And now on to my Pittsburgh Steelers.
So how will they bounce back from losing so many of these offensive weapons?
Boy, you look at 2 years ago when they were 13-3. They had Antonio Brown, they had Love Bell, they had Jesse James, and they had, I think they even had Martavis Bryant. They had Martavis Bryant, and all those guys are gone, and you have an oft-injured Vance McDonald. You have a Juju Smith-Schuster who he looked awesome, looked great, but he wasn't the focal point of the defense.
I love Juju.
I worry that Juju might not be able to fulfill that wide receiver one role there.
Oh, I don't have any doubt that he's going to not only take on that role, but he's going to thrive in it. Got a lot of expectations for him in that offense this year.
It's going to be really hard for him to repeat what he did.
Well, what they did is they went out and they added Dante Moncrief. He's a bit of a burner, so he can play on the outside. You got a guy that you're not super high on, I know, but he's an unproven wide receiver, and James Washington coming in. That's got to help.
The Washington, I worry about him because he just wasn't in sync with Big Ben at all last year. Moncrief, I like him, but there's a guy who has really struggled with his health over the years, and so we'll see how he fits with that offense. And Vance McDonald, Vance McDonald has all the earmarks of getting into that top 5 tight end position, but he just can't stay healthy enough. But without Jesse James soaking up 40 to 50 receptions, that opens up the door completely for him.
It does. His ceiling is very high.
Mm-hmm.
Vance, that is. Vance McDonald's ceiling is very high in that offense, with him being pretty much the only game in town at the tight end position. We've seen where he can take a 10, 15-yard out pass and take it to the house because he throws about 8 defenders off of him.
or he just smashes the Tampa game.
He just Vance smashes them down into the ground and runs into the touchdown in the end zone for a touchdown. So the health thing is definitely something to kind of be concerned about, but man, sky's the limit for him. The outside of the wide receiver core, the other big question in Pittsburgh is what's the running back situation going to look like? I mean, we had James Conner coming off of an amazing year, and they got a very tried and true backup behind Conner and Jalen Samuels. So for me. I know when he got into that, when he came in and played, man, Jalen Samuels did very, very well.
When he got in and played during the New England game. Now, if you go back and watch the Oakland game where we needed Samuels in that third quarter.
But are you you're looking at it as a football fan. We're talking fantasy now.
I would say Jalen Samuels is no more than a handcuff.
Oh, for sure.
But a very valid handcuff to a certain point. I call Jalen Samuels pedestal guy because all the Steeler fans were so excited about getting this guy in the 5th round. This guy is a guy who hardly played any running back in college. I'm not a Jalen Samuels fan. I thought his performance in the New England game was a one-off. What I saw going back and watching film on that was the Steelers opened up huge holes, and New England was arm tackling.
But the thing is that Steelers are opening big holes. It's a great running offense.
It's
a great running scheme offense. Now, how much of that's going to change with the departure of Mike Munchak, to my beloved Denver Broncos.
Yep.
But I think that for me, Jalen Samuels, for all you dynasty and redraft guys out there, he's a very valuable handcuff. If something were to happen to Connor, Jalen Samuels would be one of the top targeted free agent acquisitions out there.
No doubt. Absolutely.
So,
and it's not so much the running in Pittsburgh.
It's the passing, too.
Yeah. And Jalen Samuels was a big passing weapon in college, a receiving weapon in college. So he does have the hands to do it. And especially if the Steelers are going to continue their 70% throwing the ball.
So speaking of that, with the departure of Lev Bell, with the departure of Antonio Brown, what does this mean for Ben Roethlisberger? Fantasy expectations.
He just came off his best year. He led the NFL in passing, and just because their offense was so one-dimensional.
Does that trend continue this year?
I don't think it can. I don't think it can.
So it's going to be more of a run-heavy offense, you think?
I think they got to balance it. I think they got to get more to like a 60%, running attack.
So then that would spell really good things for Connor and maybe Samuels.
But if Connor can stay healthy.
Yes. Yep.
So it's going to be really interesting to see. I would not be surprised one bit if they added a wide receiver in the draft. Or I would not be surprised. My choice would be grabbing
tight end?
Yeah. Grabbing tight end in the first round.
Yep.
The Hawkinson. That's my guy there.
I'm with you. I knew where you're going with that. So, yep. And we're just a couple weeks away from finding out what happens.
Yes, we are. 3 weeks from tomorrow. So let's roll over to the NFC North with the Chicago Bears. The Bears.
12-4 last season. Made it to the playoffs, but ultimately getting beat by the Eagles 15-16 on that infamous missed field goal.
Shame.
Yeah, or shank, whichever one you want to call it. But third year for Mitchell Trubisky. What do you think? Is he going to step up, step down, remain the same? He had a pretty good year last year, right?
He did have a good year. And this is a guy where I definitely ate my hat on.
Yeah.
I think I probably ate a few other people's hats along the way. A quarterback that I really did not put a lot of stock in, and he blew away my expectations. He really did. Very impressed with him. I think he, 66.6% completion percentage. That's phenomenal. The problem is they're kind of a run first team, but without Jordan Howard, are they gonna remain a run first team?
See, and that's the thing we were going to talk about is that Jordan Howard has now been traded to the Eagles.
Mm-hmm.
So, but they did bring in Mike Davis from the Seahawks, who showed that he has the capabilities to play that role. He's a little bit better pass catcher. So, with the emergence of the re-emergence, I should say, of Allen Robinson, he played really well towards the end of the year. that's the question. Are they going to still remain? What percent are they going to be? More pass heavy, more run heavy? Or I think they're probably going to be pretty balanced.
I think you're right. I think they, if they keep the leads like they did last year, they're definitely going to not have to go ridiculously pass heavy.
Yeah, see, and this is what's so interesting about the Chicago Bears is that they traded away their defensive coordinator, or they traded away, but they lost their defensive coordinator, Vic Fangio, who's now the head coach of my beloved Denver Broncos. But they relied heavily on that incredible defense that they had, which kept them in a lot of close games, so they didn't have to rely necessarily on their offense to go out and make these huge plays. Even though Tariq Cohen was turning 5-yard screen passes into 80-yard touchdown runs. But a lot of things went their way last year. But, again, with the departure of Vic Fangio, I mean, I think that's going to could prove to be pretty big and have significant impacts, not only on the defensive side, but on the offensive side. If they're not putting up in the defensive numbers that they did and holding these teams to these low points, are we going to see some more passing attempts, more garbage time, I guess I would say?
Are they going to go 12-4? Well, you have the Vikings that are okay, but the rest of the division is ucky. Yep, yeah, I'm a grown man. I just used the word ucky. And, it's going to – they're kind of like the fantasy team, them and the Vikings for that division, I would say. Can Cohen hold up at, 5'8", 180? Can he hold up between the tackles for a whole year? Is Mike Davis – what's going to be his role there? It's going to be – an interesting thing. I don't think Cohen can be a bell cow.
No.
No way. I just don't see that happening.
I think that if there's a team that screams a what am I looking for here? If there's a team that screams Flip, help me out here. A regression.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree.
A regression, I think this would probably be the team because there's just so many question marks around the offensive side, getting rid of their RB1, which should have been their legit RB1, but they didn't really utilize him.
Yeah, they didn't use Howard that much. I don't think Howard had... Well, he did have 250 carries last year, but they were ineffective, 3.7 yards per attempt.
Yeah, and you look at Tariq Cohen, he had 99. You know?
I mean,
but he also had 71 receptions. So maybe that's a sign of things to come, is that they're going to be more utilizing those running backs out of the backfield because they bring in a Mike Davis who can run the ball between the tackles, but can also catch the ball.
That's just kind of a scary little situation because that's it. I mean, they don't have. They don't. Would you be surprised if they drafted a running back fairly high?
Nope. Not after we see Jordan Howard go.
I wouldn't either. So, before you hop on the Mike Davis bandwagon, anybody, I would definitely wait until after the draft. Mike Davis is 217, but I don't think he runs that. I don't think he runs 217. I mean, doesn't run like he is 217. I think he runs a little more like, the buck 80 that Cohen is. Oh, buck 78.
A guy to keep your eye on in this offense, though, I think is Anthony Miller.
I think he definitely makes some strides.
I really do. If he can stay healthy and put together a 16-game season with him being put in there as a slot receiver. Taylor Gabriel is a gadget player. He's more of a boom-bust type guy. He's like a Tavon Austin, in my opinion.
Agreed.
But Anthony Miller has shown himself, in my opinion, to be a true starting slot receiver, fantasy asset. I think he's a guy to keep an eye on in this offense.
I completely concur with you there. I really do. who's going to, is he going to be on the outside more? Are they actually going to go with Gabriel out there? Are they going to bring, are they going to draft somebody? Could Cordero
Patterson.
Can Patterson resurrect his career? This is a guy that was a first-round pick.
The Vikings.
Yeah. And was a mega bust.
Yeah. And New England tried to use him in the backfield as a running back from time to time.
Well, they kind of used him a little like Randall Cobb, with the Packers.
So, speaking of Packers. What's going on with Green Bay?
They had another down year, 6-8-1 last season, missed the playoffs. Their brand new coach, Matt LaFleur. What's going to be the fantasy implications, Jarvis, with having the new head coach?
I think that if there's any real fantasy implications, I think it probably comes down to Aaron Jones. He had a pretty good year last year. He led the team with 728 yards and 8 touchdowns. But, the expectations in 2019, I think with Matt LaFleur, his past, he was with the Redskins, I believe. He just recently came from the Titans in a run-heavy offense. So I think that if anything, that could spell really well for Aaron Jones. But the thing is you got a Hall of Fame quarterback and Aaron Rodgers under center who's always made his hay through the air. One of the best quarterbacks to ever play the game. And you have an absolute monster wide receiver in Devontae Adams. So whether that spells a more balanced approach, I don't know if it does. I just don't know if it does. I don't think that Aaron Rodgers is going to want to deviate from more of a pass-happy offense into a running system. And I think Aaron Rodgers probably has a lot of say that goes on in that offense.
Yep,
you know what I mean? But, you have Devontae Adams. Flip, he finished with 111 receptions and 1,386 yards, 13 touchdowns. He was the overall wide receiver 1 in fantasy last year.
And that's really surprising because who would have picked that?
I wouldn't have, because his knock in the passes, he was always kind of touchdown dependent. Mm-hmm. But this year we saw Devontae Adams put together a complete year, solidified himself as Aaron Rodgers' number 1 go-to target in a year that he had a lot of young receivers that were trying to just kind of get out there and make a name for themselves. We saw Marquez Valdez-Scantling come in, make a name for himself. I think a guy that is under the radar right now that could have a significant wide receiver 2 season is Geronimo Allison.
Yeah, and
we don't talk about him.
And I believe he was hurt last year. He only played in 5 games, and we'll see. Because last year Rodgers threw for almost 4,500 yards, just 25 touchdowns, but only 2 interceptions. So he's
the guy's good.
Tom Brady-esque. He's not going to turn the ball over much.
The guy's good.
Yeah.
We can mark Equanimeous St. Brown up to a bust so far, right?
I think so. I think you're absolutely right.
Do you put a lot of stock in someone like that, or?
I guess you got to show me before I'm going to believe in you. And this guy was a 6th-round draft pick in last year. I think he probably saw the field more, just because Randall Cobb was
And Cobb is now out of town.
Yeah, guy who needed a change of scenery. That's for sure.
Yes, he did. And he's in Dallas right now, and I'm sure he's loving life.
But boy, when Aaron Rodgers, you take out the whole Devontae Adams, he's throwing to almost nobody's. Jimmy Graham was.
He had 636 yards. He was our lead. So that's the thing is what we need to point out is traditionally from the last 8 years or whatever it's been, Green Bay has just not really ever utilized that tight end position very much. And this year, the tight end position garnished the 2nd highest receiver total. Mm-hmm. Jimmy Graham had 636 yards. Now, Devontae Adams doubled that.
Yeah, more than doubled it.
At
Yeah,
1386. Then behind that was Marquez Valdez-Scantling, who only started 10 games. Like I said, like he kind of came into his own late in the season. But yeah, the departure of Randall Cobb, Equanimeous St. Brown has really done nothing. Geronimo Allison been hurt. So last year, I mean, yeah, it was a tough year for the Packers. But it doesn't take away from the fact that Aaron Rodgers can sling it.
Yeah.
And if you get a guy who's the absolute number one on a team where the quarterback is just, he's just top of the line, he's the guy you're going to want to target. So Davante Adams, man, I don't know if he can repeat the numbers that he did last year, but a big regression I don't see coming.
Would you draft him number one overall, wide receiver?
As crazy as it sounds, I would definitely consider it. Yeah.
Would you?
Yep. I would consider it. He's up there. I mean, because we talked about this a little bit on a couple shows ago about the running backs, the running back rankings. Who would you take number one overall as a running back? Would it be your Gurley? Would it be your Bell? Would it be your Ezekiel Elliott? Alvin Kamara? You have like 5 or 6 running backs right there that are all kind of like in consideration. Davante Adams has solidified himself in that conversation with an Odell Beckham, with the DeAndre Hopkins, Julio Jones. He's absolutely earned his way in there, and I think it's time we take him serious.
I couldn't agree with you more, especially if they didn't bring in anybody. They've subtracted, if anything. Mm-hmm. And if they're going to be they were the most pass happy team in the league last year. Number one in pass percentage plays last year. So will that continue?
I'd expect it to.
Yeah, this is not a good team. This is not. You're playing against the Bears. You're playing against the Vikings. You're the third team in that division, running around down there with the Lions. So this is a team that's probably not going to have the lead a lot. I wouldn't think. I don't think they made any. Wow, look what Green Bay did.
Yeah, no, they haven't, and they've never really been that way. Mm-mm. They're a team that's kind of like they have their own little farm system and they stick to it. You know what I mean? Like. Not necessarily like a farm system, but you know what I mean. Like they draft these guys and they build them and develop them. They don't want to get rid of them.
They're like the Steelers, where they don't guarantee more than 1 year on a contract unless it's for a quarterback. So that limits their ability to bring in top tier free agents.
Yep.
So we mentioned the Vikings, 9-7-1, missed the playoffs. Very disappointing season. Very disappointing defensively for him last year, don't you think?
I completely agree. I mean, I think that, in dynasty redraft leagues where, you play your defense, like the Vikings absolutely had to be one of the top like 2 or 3 defenses off the board.
Oh, definitely.
And we just saw a little bit of regression from that. And so you would think that would lead into or transition into more offensive, opportunities for the Vikings, but it just was just kind of like more of like a blah year for them. Well, and especially in a year where they had just they spent $90 million on Kirk Cousins to come in, and this is like, okay, this is the missing piece. You look at our wide receiver core. We got Stephon Diggs. We got Adam Thielen. We got Kyle Rudolph. We got Dalvin Cook. We got a good offensive line. We got an incredible defense. What we need is that quarterback. And they had a worse year than they did last year.
Oh, boy. Kirk Cousins was, he was just ugly. It wasn't.
He wasn't that bad. I mean, he threw almost 4,300 yards, 30 touchdowns, 10 picks. But when you spend all that money on somebody, and it doesn't really do much for you, is he a help or a hurt in this situation?
was it some growing pains this past year?
That could be.
I just wasn't overly impressed with Kirk Cousins. I mean, when you go 3 out of the last 6 games without with no rushing touchdowns, and you just kind of stumble around on offense. I'm not going to say that Kirk Cousins was bad like Bortles, but surprisingly he only had 10 interceptions, and it just kind of seemed like it just didn't seem like he was that good.
Well, and you hit on the fact that he only had 1 rushing touchdown. That came in week 6. And I think one of the biggest reasons why we saw a dip in his rushing performance as well as rushing touchdowns, I think he was afraid to celebrate the touchdown. Did you see his touchdown celebration dance?
No, I can't think of it off the top of my head.
It was the absolute worst thing I've ever seen. And I think that's why they just dialed him back. They're like, okay, Kirk, we're not going to give you any rushing touchdown opportunities because I don't want to see anything like that ever again out of you. No, obviously that was just a joke. But man, it just really was a disappointing year overall. I mean, you had Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen show up. I mean, Thielen for sure for the first eight games of the year. But going into next year, you have these 2, what I would call dominant wide receivers. Going into next year, if you had your choice, would you take Diggs or Thielen?
I think it's just a total 50-50 coin flip. I really do. I probably like Diggs more than Thielen.
I'm with you. I'm with you on that.
I just think he's a little more consistent. I think he gets targeted more. So that would be my guy.
And it may, come as a surprise to some, but I think that he's the better talent.
Yeah. Last year Thielen had a better year, but Diggs missed 2 games as well.
Yeah, but the thing is though that if you take away the first 8 games of Adam Thielen's season, he had almost 1,000 yards in those first 8 games. Maybe a little more than 1,000, right at 1,000. His last 8 games were just like ghost town. And I don't know why that was, but it was just crazy to see that because he set the record for 8 consecutive games with 100 yards, and then after that, we see 22, 66. Then he had the 125. Then after that, 28, 70, 19, 80, 38. Like,
yeah, when probably a lot of people's top wide receiver or possibly wide receiver number 2 is getting you 28, 22, and 19 off of yardage. Oh, you can't be happy. The first, like you said, the first 8 games were stellar, all over 100 yards. But then, the rest of the season, it's just that one game.
Yeah, it's a tale of 2 tapes, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Rudolph disappearing last year.
Yeah. So is it time to put Rudolph on the shelf? Is he no longer a top tier tight end candidate?
I think you got to throw him back down into that group of
10 to 15.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to throw him back down there. He's a great guy for the red zone, but he just, I don't know, didn't mesh with Cousins or.
He's a good tight end in a wrong system.
Yeah. I mean, he still had 64 catches last year, but under 10 yards per, only 4 touchdowns. Could it be the whole thing again of too many mouths to feed?
Yeah. Biggest fantasy asset in this entire Minnesota Vikings offense, in my opinion, is Dalvin Cook.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Amir Abdullah.
No, not at all. They've got to address it at some point, right? possibly high in this year's draft. I mean, they've got Dalvin Cook, who I think is just going to be a monster this year. If he can stay healthy, I mean, he's got top 5 running back written all over him. But they've got to add some depth in there, man. Like
I think what's still hurting
they've got like Amir Abdullah and this guy C.J. Ham.
C.J. Ham's their fullback there. And
yeah, that's it though.
Mm-hmm.
So you obviously they're going to add somebody during the draft.
Yeah,
because
they have Michael Boone, whoever that is, and Rock Thomas.
Rock Thomas. He's the brother of Rock Lobster.
I don't know who Rock Lobster is.
What? Rock Lobster? That's.
Oh boy! And you wonder why our shows take 2 hours.
What? You've never heard Rock Lobster?
Okay, we're not going to talk about
It's
Rock
the
Lobster.
B-52s.
Okay, no wonder. So the Vikings are, I expect them to have a better year, but where do you put Kirk Cousins? Is he even in any remote conversation as a top 5 fantasy quarterback?
Top 5 is stretching it. I would say he's probably the 7 to 10 range. Still, I mean, he's still a quarterback to go after and try to get, because most likely you're going to be playing in 10, maybe 12, sometimes 14 league teams. So if you can get Kirk Cousins, you're still going to have a top-end quarterback regardless of that. So, yeah, but if you're looking for a top 5 quarterback, I think you should probably look elsewhere.
I'm going to agree with you there. And now to the bottom team of the division.
Oh, yeah. 6-10 Detroit Lions last year. Missing the playoffs.
Again.
But they do have a guy that I'm really high on. What can we expect from second-year running back Kerryon Johnson? I mean, a healthy Kerryon Johnson and new offensive line coach that they brought in. It's got a proven track record of making running backs better. I mean, could this be a breakout year for the young running back?
Like we talked about in the news and notes section, I'm a little concerned, with him. I really am with C.J. Anderson going there. I am. Zach Zenner, he might be a little goal line vulture along with C.J. Anderson. I am impressed with Kerryon Johnson, but in a redraft league, I'll let somebody else grab him.
Oh, yeah, and that someone will be me.
Okay.
Yep.
I think he's going to be overdrafted for his production. I'm also going to say that's not going to be a good team. Yeah. Plus, you throw in, Theo Riddick is still there. He's going to get his third down snaps there. He digressed last year, but I'll let other people, overdraft Kerryon Johnson. Now, I do like Kerryon Johnson more for
Dynasty?
For dynasty value, yeah.
Yeah.
I
I like him a lot this year. I like him a lot.
So, not me.
And if I wasn't so loaded up on running back depth, I'd probably go target him. Now, by that, I mean Le'Veon Bell, Phillip Lindsay, Melvin Gordon, all on my team. You understand.
You need that with your wide receivers there, buddy.
Oh. Yeah, I guess DeAndre Hopkins and Odell Beckham don't count.
No, not one bit. But with the wide receivers in Detroit, you got to kind of like him though. I'm a big fan of Galladay.
I am too. I really am. This isn't like a wide receiver core that you're gonna just go brag to everybody like, oh man, you got to check these guys out. Like these guys are gonna be under the radar. Go grab them. Like I'm looking for big things out of this offense. But when you look at it, it's actually pretty solid.
It is.
It's not going to blow you away, but it's definitely not going to underperform. Like Kenny Galladay, I think he's an absolute number one. And then Marvin Jones is a great complement to that. And then you bring in Danny Amendola, who can come in and play the slot.
If he can stay healthy.
So I think they quietly made some additions there and have brought in like just a good quality wide receiver core. Kind of reminds me of the situation of Buffalo. Like, they didn't make any big splash moves or anything like that, but they improved their wide receivers.
Yeah. And, Marvin Jones, he was hurt last year. He only ended up with, 35 receptions through 9 games, which, well, that isn't very much, But if he can get back up to the 6, 8, 10 targets per game, is he the number one still, or is it Galladay?
I still think Galladay's the clear number one, man. He's tall, he's athletic, he's got all the intangibles, and he proved it, man. He made some really incredible goal line catches, man, like some end zone catches. I'm a big fan of Galladay.
And I
think he's their wide receiver 1. I think he's a good wide receiver 2. Don't go out and draft him as your wide receiver 1. If he is your wide receiver 1 on your team,
boy, you better have some really good running backs.
Yeah, you got to have some good running backs.
And you better have Travis
quarterbacks
Kelsey
and
on your
tight ends.
team, yeah, because that's not going to bode well.
But man, he would be a good wide receiver 2, I think, for you.
Yeah. Anything out of Jesse James? I think that's a great landing spot for James there at the tight end position.
Yeah, I actually agree with you here. I think his value is better here in Detroit than it was in Pittsburgh.
Because he doesn't have any competition here. He's not sitting behind anybody. And this is a guy. Okay, I'm a big Jesse James fan. This is a guy who, for any of you older people that remembers Heath Miller, Jesse James at 24 is what Heath Miller was at 33. Yeah,
minus like 7 inches.
Well, well, no, James is a big kid.
That's what I'm saying. Jesse James is like
6'6", 6'7". But he's slow. He's got really good hands for the most part. He's just a guy that finds these little pockets in the seam and sits there, catches the ball, gets hit, and falls down. That's what he does. And he's not going to get into that top 4 tight end category.
No, he's not going to be a 4 reception, 125 yard game guy.
No.
He'll be like a 4 or 5 reception for 40, 50 yards and a touchdown type guy.
Yep.
So he's going to be extremely serviceable in the red zone, just like they were using Eric Ebron. Eric Ebron was a guy that had that size, and that athletic ability.
He's kind of like the opposite of Ebron. Ebron had bad hands. James has really good hands. Ebron was athletic. James is not. So it's going to be interesting to see if Stafford falls in love with James like Big Ben did at times in the end zone, in the red zone. This is a guy that I'll tell you, I will probably overdraft. In the redraft, yeah. This is
so your confidence is pretty high on him.
Yeah, I'm like I said, I'm a big James fan.
I'm not a big James fan, but I will ride this one with you. I think that if there was a really good landing spot for him to go to, I think this is probably it.
Yeah, and like you had mentioned before, they got a good offense, and it's going to hinge on Stafford.
Mm-hmm. And one thing that we notice about this whole entire offense is that, especially when you look at the running back situation, Kerryon Johnson, Theo Riddick, these are both guys that are pass catchers. So the offense is still going to go through Matt Stafford throwing the ball through the air, which spells really good things for every pass catcher in this offense, especially when you get in the red zone and you don't have a big bruiser running back. Mm-hmm. I mean, C.J. Anderson maybe, but, we'll see.
Yeah. And the only thing that's going to hurt them is they do play against 2 good defenses, if the Vikings bounce back.
If they, yeah.
And if the Bears don't take a big regression. Now, if neither one of those two happen, you could see Stafford putting up some big yardage. You could depending on how that offensive line is going to be too. So I would say this definitely will they finish last in that division? Possibly. Will they put up some good fantasy numbers? I think so. Yeah. I think so.
Yep. I'm with you.
All right. So now that we've ran our show for 3 hours now?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that if you pressed play on the Dances with Wolves movie, it not only has been over when the credits have run, but it's still stuck at the DVD menu on your screen, so you should probably turn your TV off. or it's going to burn an image into your television screen.
or what's his name's floating dead on the plank in Titanic, right?
Oh, yeah. Jack. Yeah, Jack just let go.
And slipped under the water because she wouldn't. There's plenty of room.
She wouldn't spare her 10 foot of room.
Yeah. She said no. She didn't love him that much.
No.
Anyway. Okay.
Wow.
Well, we definitely had way too much fun during this show. We definitely didn't think it was going to go this long, and we appreciate anybody who listened from start to finish.
Yeah, you deserve some sort of award.
We will try to make next week's show slightly under 2 hours. So, bringing up next week's show, we will be covering the AFC South and the NFC South. So, it's trudging on 2 more weeks, and then we'll do our one draft week, and then we'll do a few weeks of draft. Analyzing the draft and the fantasy implications from that in May.
Oh, I'm looking forward to that.
Oh, so am I. That's going to be so much fun. So, again, if you have any, questions, you can always reach out to us on Twitter or check us an email. And be sure here on YouTube to like, subscribe, and
hit that bell.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for listening to another fantastic podcast from us. We definitely enjoyed having you listen to us, and we will catch you next week.
Check you later.